Welcome to Visual Books. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to bounce back from setbacks with an almost unshakable spirit, while others get bogged down by every little bump in the road? What if I told you that this difference, this fundamental approach to life's challenges, isn't some innate talent, but a skill you can actually learn? Today, we are exploring Learned Optimism by Dr. Martin Seligman, a groundbreaking work that unlocks the secrets to cultivating a more hopeful and resilient outlook. Get ready to discover how to rewire your thinking and transform your response to adversity. Lesson 1: The Discovery of Learned Helplessness. In this foundational chapter, Dr. Seligman introduces us to his revolutionary research. He describes early experiments with dogs, where they were subjected to inescapable shocks. Later, when presented with the opportunity to escape, these dogs, unlike their counterparts who had never experienced inescapable shocks, simply laid down and endured the pain. This phenomenon, he termed learned helplessness. The key takeaway here is profound. When we repeatedly experience situations where our efforts seem futile, we can learn to believe that we are helpless, even when that helplessness is no longer true. The example of the dogs is stark, but the implications for humans are even more significant. We can, through repeated negative experiences and the interpretations we attach to them, learn to feel powerless. The actionable advice in this chapter isn't about specific techniques yet, but about understanding this core concept, recognizing that learned helplessness is a learned response, not an inherent trait. Chapter 2: Explaining the Difference. Here, Seligman dives deeper into why some people succumb to learned helplessness while others don't. He introduces the concept of explanatory style, the way we habitually explain the causes of events in our lives. He identifies three crucial dimensions: permanence, pervasiveness, and personhood. If we attribute bad events to permanent causes, things that will always be this way, then we are more likely to become helpless. If we see bad events as pervasive, affecting all areas of our lives, that's also a recipe for despair. And if we blame ourselves, seeing bad events as personal failures, helplessness can take root. The example he uses is a child failing an exam. A pessimistic child might think, "I'm just not smart, I'll fail all my subjects, and it's all my fault." An optimistic child, however, might see it as, "I didn't study enough for this one test, I usually do okay in other subjects, and maybe the teacher made it harder this time." The actionable advice is to begin to listen to your own internal monologue. How do you explain things to yourself? Start noticing the words you use and the assumptions you make about causes. Chapter 3: The Optimistic Style and Its Effects. This chapter shifts the focus to the power of an optimistic explanatory style. Seligman details how optimistic individuals tend to explain negative events with temporary, specific, and external causes, while attributing positive events to permanent, pervasive, and personal causes. He presents evidence showing that this optimistic style is linked to better health outcomes, greater success in work and relationships, and a stronger sense of well-being. He uses examples from sports, where highly successful athletes often possess an optimistic outlook, attributing wins to their skill and losses to temporary bad luck or specific strategic errors, rather than a fundamental lack of ability. The actionable advice is to consciously practice reframing negative explanations. When something bad happens, actively challenge your initial pessimistic thoughts. Ask yourself, is this truly permanent? Is it affecting everything? Is it solely my fault? Chapter 4: Pessimism, Optimism, and Reality. Seligman tackles a common misconception, that optimism is simply unrealistic positive thinking. He clarifies that learned optimism isn't about ignoring reality or pretending everything is perfect. Instead, it's about a more accurate assessment of events and a belief in your ability to influence outcomes. He argues that excessive pessimism can lead to inaction and missed opportunities, while a realistic optimism allows for proactive problem solving. He illustrates this with historical figures and everyday scenarios where a belief in future improvement, even in the face of difficulty, fueled progress. The actionable advice here is to distinguish between constructive pessimism and destructive pessimism. Constructive pessimism acknowledges potential problems but doesn't let them paralyze you. Destructive pessimism assumes the worst and prevents any attempt at improvement. Learn to identify when your pessimism is serving you and when it's holding you back. Chapter 5: The ABCDE Technique. This is where the rubber meets the road, the practical application of learned optimism. Seligman introduces the powerful ABCDE technique, a structured way to challenge and change your pessimistic thinking patterns. A stands for adversity, the event itself. B stands for beliefs, your thoughts about the adversity. C stands for consequences, your feelings and actions resulting from your beliefs. D stands for disputation, challenging your pessimistic beliefs. And E stands for energization, the positive feelings and renewed motivation that result from effectively disputing your beliefs. He provides numerous examples of how to apply this, such as facing a job rejection. Instead of thinking, "I'm a failure," you dispute it by saying, "This job wasn't the right fit, and I have many other strengths." The actionable advice is to practice this technique diligently. Keep a journal and work through challenging situations using ABCDE. Chapter 6: Optimism and Children. In this chapter, Seligman turns his attention to how we can instill learned optimism in the next generation. He emphasizes the crucial role parents and educators play in shaping a child's explanatory style. Children learn by observing and internalizing the way adults around them explain events. He highlights the dangers of labeling children or attributing their struggles to fixed traits. He uses anecdotes of parents who effectively coach their children through setbacks, helping them to see challenges as temporary and solvable. The actionable advice is to become a coach for the children in your life. When they experience disappointment, help them to analyze the situation, identify their efforts, and find temporary, specific, and external explanations for setbacks, while celebrating their successes with permanent, pervasive, and personal attributions. Chapter 7: Optimism and Relationships. Seligman explores the profound impact of learned optimism on our personal relationships. He argues that optimistic individuals tend to be more resilient in the face of relationship conflicts and are better equipped to navigate disagreements constructively. They are more likely to give their partners the benefit of the doubt and focus on solutions rather than blame. Conversely, pessimistic individuals can create a self-fulfilling prophecy of relationship failure by anticipating the worst. He shares examples of couples who have used optimistic communication styles to strengthen their bonds and overcome obstacles. The actionable advice is to practice optimistic communication with your loved ones. When discussing problems, focus on shared solutions, acknowledge positive aspects of the relationship, and avoid making global, negative statements about your partner or the relationship itself. Chapter 8: Optimism and Work. This chapter delves into the workplace, examining how learned optimism can lead to greater professional success and job satisfaction. Seligman discusses how optimistic salespeople, for instance, are more persistent in the face of rejection, leading to higher sales figures. He also highlights how optimistic leaders can foster more positive and productive work environments. The research presented shows a strong correlation between an optimistic outlook and better job performance across various industries. He shares case studies of companies and individuals who have benefited from embracing optimistic principles. The actionable advice for work is to apply the ABCDE technique to professional challenges. When facing a difficult project or criticism, challenge your pessimistic interpretations and focus on your ability to learn and adapt. Chapter 9: Optimism and Health. The link between our minds and our bodies is a powerful one, and Seligman devotes a significant portion of the book to how learned optimism impacts our physical health. He presents compelling evidence that optimistic individuals tend to have stronger immune systems, recover more quickly from illness, and live longer, healthier lives. Pessimism, on the other hand, has been linked to a host of health problems. He details studies that show how a hopeful outlook can influence physiological responses, affecting everything from cardiovascular health to recovery from surgery. The actionable advice here is to recognize that your mindset matters for your physical well-being. Actively cultivate optimistic thoughts, particularly when dealing with health challenges, as this can have a tangible positive effect on your body. Chapter 10: The Optimistic Leader. Here, Seligman focuses on the characteristics and impact of optimistic leadership. He argues that optimistic leaders are not only more effective but also inspire greater loyalty and commitment from their teams. They are able to articulate a compelling vision of the future and motivate others to overcome obstacles in pursuit of that vision. He distinguishes between naive optimism and realistic, resilient optimism in leadership. The examples used often highlight leaders who have navigated major crises with a steadfast belief in their ability to find solutions. The actionable advice for aspiring or current leaders is to cultivate your own optimism and to consciously foster it within your team. Your belief in a positive future can be contagious and transformative. Chapter 11: Pessimism, Optimism, and the Future. As we approach the conclusion, Seligman reflects on the broader societal implications of learned optimism and pessimism. He suggests that a society that encourages learned helplessness and pessimism is one that is more prone to stagnation and despair, while a society that cultivates learned optimism is one that is more dynamic, innovative, and resilient. He urges readers to consider how they can contribute to fostering a more optimistic outlook in their communities. The actionable advice in this chapter is to become an advocate for learned optimism. Share the principles you've learned, challenge pessimistic narratives where you encounter them, and embody the principles of resilience and hope in your own life. Chapter 12: The Future of Optimism. In the final chapter, Seligman offers a hopeful vision for the future, emphasizing that learned optimism is not a static trait but an ongoing practice. He reiterates that by understanding and applying the principles of explanatory style and the ABCDE technique, individuals can continue to cultivate their optimism throughout their lives. He underscores the potential for profound personal growth and a more fulfilling existence. The actionable advice is to continue the journey. Learned optimism is not a destination, but a lifelong practice of mindful thinking and resilient response. Keep challenging your negative thoughts, keep reframing your explanations, and keep believing in your capacity for a brighter tomorrow. Learned optimism is a powerful, evidence-based framework for understanding why some people thrive and others struggle, and crucially, it provides a roadmap for anyone who wishes to cultivate a more hopeful and resilient approach to life. It's about understanding that our explanations for events are not fixed truths, but rather learned patterns that can be consciously changed. By mastering these concepts, you gain the agency to navigate life's inevitable challenges with grace, determination, and a persistent belief in your ability to shape a positive future. Thank you for watching. If you found this summary helpful, please like this video, subscribe to Visual Books for more summaries, and share it with someone who would benefit.